Look out!
Surging up from the depths of the sea.
Horrifying, mysterious creatures whose attack on people sends the whole countryside on an endless search.
And unless something is done, and done quickly.
Is this the end of our civilization?
You'll pioneer with us the perilous descent into the unknown.
What does that mean? What are you even talking about?
A deep, penetrating dive.
In the last calm and reflective moment, before the monsters came.
Humanoids from the deep dive.
Welcome to the podcast Humanoids from the Deep Dive, where we dig deep into the meanings and context of your favorite monsters and monster movies. Each episode will see guests, co-hosts, and myself give our take on an important movie, monster, and or film, and what we think it means using everything from history and philosophy to films and folklore. Today we are recording to celebrate the anniversary of one of our favorite monster movies, a favorite I'm sure of a lot of you find folks at home. We're going to talk about John Carpenter's The Thing because it's great and it's a lot of fun and the monster's badass. So I don't really think that needs more explanation than that. We're pumped about it. For a little context, we had recorded this exact episode months ago, and we were trying a new recording format, and it didn't work in the actual file construction part of it. So, and then we this is our second attempt today at steamrolling through this, but I have a good feeling about it. Clearly, though, the thing just doesn't want to be identified, and that was our main mistake.
Yeah, how dare we?
Yeah, I think it was probably because we actually pieced together what exactly the ending of the film means and what happened to those guys at the end. So it's
actually a time traveler coming in to fuck up the recording so that this never gets out.
Yeah. And I don't know if y'all at home have been listeners the whole time. Probably because you're amazing and you're smart, and I can tell. If not, feel free to check out our past episodes. But one of our first episodes, we had something similar. We did an episode on Death and the Final Destination films, and we got too close to Death's design, and it tried to kill the show. So this has happened before, and we're still plowing through because you matter, and we're not scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fans of the show can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, now YouTube, and anywhere your podcasts are served. And you can follow us on Twitter at HFT Deep Dive. I'm your host, Jeff Ewing. I write for a bunch of places about a bunch of things. A lot of the times it's monster related because I love that stuff, and that's why I'm here. And I'm pleased to introduce our co-host for this fine recording, Andre Couture, the editor, co-host extraordinaire, and Luna Minui, one of the coolest people I know because she's cooler than me, and that makes me jealous.
It's just because I have purple and blue hair.
I know. I really think I would love to rock that, and I don't think I can, and it makes me sad. But anyway, both of you, I'm so happy to have you on the show today. Thank you so much, and say hi to the peoples.
Hello, people.
Hello, people.
Humanoids.
Oh, great! The thing's already here, and we have started recording for the third, fourth time.
I think we're gonna power through. It is our destiny. Okay, so the thing, if you listen to this show, and you should, you probably don't need explained what the thing is because among our type of peoples, it's a fairly well-traveled cinematic experience. But for the purposes of setup, we'll dig into a little bit. The setup is this. There's this remote research institute in Antarctica, and the American researchers there come to, they let in this dog that's being chased by a helicopter from this the set of I believe it was Norwegian researchers, unless I'm brain glitching, and they let it in, and they realize pretty soon that people start disappearing, things start going missing, things start going awry, and then they come to find out that there is a shape-shifting something that has been let into their facility, and it's in danger. It's something that could endanger the entire planet if it got loose, let alone just them as they get picked off one by one. So we'll have lots of time to dig into more details, etc. But for now, I wanted to kind of start out by giving the co-host and myself the floor to talk about our take our review of the film. So go alphabetical. Luna, or wait, that's not fucking alphabetical. Guys, I gotta be honest. My brain's in 8 places at once because we restarted today, and I'm still just like
Reverse alphabetical.
Well,
who would like to go first?
Alphabetical order.
Or I
from B to
I could
A.
just put an asterisk before my name, and then it's
Yeah, then automatically shots up in the alphabet.
no. Andre, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, we look at the thing as this timeless film now, and like, even though it is a remake, it does like really reimagine like the entire story that that was first introduced in the 50s, and even then the short story, which I think it said that it's most accurate to the short story, like as an adaptation, it's closer to like the themes and how the story progresses. But it's a really great movie. It's almost virtually perfect in every way. So it's really hard not to just jump out of the gate and give it a 5-star out of 5-star review. And I mean, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. There's really nothing that I can think of that didn't have to be done in the movie that is shown or implied or leaned towards. And like anything that you're looking for thematically in that movie, it'll fit. There's plenty of stuff that happens off screen that is a totally valid reading of the movie, and it supports anything. Like if you provide the evidence for it, it's there. So it's just as nebulous as like the thing itself. So it's 5 out of 5 stars.
Love it. Thank you. Luna?
Well, my review is going to be incredibly unique and not repetitive at all.
1 out of 5.
That I also believe it should be 5 out of 5 stars. But I completely agree with everything Andre just said. I think for me specifically, I love that there's this like perfect marriage of different types of storytelling in one film and different types of anxieties and horrors, because you have like the monster other horror, you have the body horror, you have the anxiety of the self, community, paranoia, in-group, out-group fighting. Like there's just so much. And I think that I've talked about it on the show before. I love sociology and I love studying how people are fucking crazy. And this film is really good at that. But then also monsters and also practical effects. And I'm just a big goddamn fan. So 5 out of 5. Faux show.
Love it. I think both of you brought up a number of the things that I love the most about it. Despite all that, I have to give it a 0 out of 5. Because wait, 0, because I thought sometimes, number 1 is like the highest, so 0 would be higher than the highest. Is that not what we're doing?
No.
Fuck. Okay, so it's a 6 out of no. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. I'll just plug that in because it's obvious. I think what can I say that's not repetitive right now? I think similarly to the both of you, I think that it's kind of an unequivocal masterpiece in the sense that every single aspect of it really, really lands. It all works together. The cinematography is beautiful. The score is wonderful. It's very suspenseful. There's incredibly high stakes because it establishes how deadly and how quick and how apocalyptic the threat is. And it's smart. It's not just like a beast hunting you and then disappearing. It's an intelligent thing that builds spaceships and that tricks you, and it just adds so many elements to it other than the amazing practical effects by Rob Bottin, other than all the clever things they did to build the creature as a deadly entity. It's insidious, like it becomes you. We'll get into the themes a little bit more, but you don't even know if it has become you. You wouldn't even know if you would be able to tell that that's what happened. And that really comes through in the film. It just works. Kurt Russell has amazing hair. Screw you, chess computer machines. I just love it. And I don't really, I've watched it so many times. I don't get tired of it because there's still something else, like a detail that you didn't catch before, or something else cool that you didn't notice because you were too distracted by all the other things that were cool.
Every time. Yeah.
So it's still fresh, yeah, so it's definitely like an easy 5 out of 5 for me. It's just always a good time, as you can if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell that I have a prominent The Thing poster over my shoulder. It's my first movie poster for a reason. I just love it. So there's that. Not to spoil this for everyone.
It's funny you mentioned that chess scene. Like, I was trying to think of like what's a scene that I feel like I didn't appreciate, or I didn't like, or I could have done without, or whatever. And I can't think of one, but that chess scene used to drive me crazy because I really don't like, in general, I like male rage at inanimate objects. Like, it's so
Sure.
dumb.
Yeah.
And anytime I see it, I'm like, oh. So like I like watch that scene and I always get that like little eye rolly gut feeling, but it's so crucial to the story for I guess highlighting or outlining humanity, like showing, because that is 100% the way humans react to things and are sore losers. So anyway, like while I was thinking of my review, I was like, oh, that chess scene always annoys me, but then it's crucial. So womp womp, there it is, being perfect.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a peek inside McCready's character too, because like there's a little bit of that Captain Kirk not accepting the no-win scenario in that, where like there's no rule in chess that you're not allowed to pour scotch on the keyboard.
Yeah, right.
So
True.
yeah, like
right.
I mean, if you sabotage it, then like nobody wins, right? So
yeah, to like play by to if within the rules you're going to lose, change the rules,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like you said, it's a lot of character development in like a minute.
Yeah.
Film time, which you have to do when you have that many characters and your star is busy all the like running for the whole
yeah
for the whole film.
So,
yeah.
No, and I very much share your suspicions, I guess, about those type of scenes when they're used uncritically, right?
Mhm.
Um, and even when they're used for a reason, like in Marriage Story, when Adam Driver angrily punches the wall, I'm just like, really? Like, and it's there for a reason,
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that's a bad scene either, but like it's so um prominent of a thing in way less thoughtful ways that it's kind of tired.
Yeah.
But here I do think that it's interesting because they're about to play, because there's so much deception involved in what the thing does and how it operates, that they're about to play, real life chess in a way.
Mhm.
And so it's a really apt setup in a very subtle way, I think. And like you're saying, there's a lot happening in 1 minute.
Mhm.
uh yeah, I'm with you, but I did have to think through the first like couple times I saw it, like, wait, okay, so where does this fit in? Because it seems a little weird, but n- nothing in the film doesn't have a purpose. So what's the
Right.
purpose?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so it's kind of interesting, like, because the movie is an adaptation of the novella Who Goes There from John W. Campbell. That's from 38, and it was this is the second adaptation of it historically, the on screen. The first one being the original Thing from Another World from the 50s. That was an entirely different type of thing, I guess, because in it John Carpenter's remake is a lot closer to how the thing operates and is and exists and seems and looks like, than the original. The original, it was like this kind of humanoid plant monster hybrid thing that didn't really operate the same at all. But it was a fun movie. John Carpenter himself loved it and obviously was inspired by it. He made a remake. So but it's interesting too that they kind of found a way to kind of go back to the source material and evolve that in a way that kind of echoes the paranoia more, that kind of changes it back to a more amorphous thing that would have been really hard to do in the 50s, uh, which I think is interesting. And then the other thing that I want to highlight is Rob Bottin, who looking something up while I do this. He did all the practical effects as like a fairly young man, and it's an absurd level of practical creature effects. Like the kitchen sink. There are so many forms that it takes of varying sizes and motility, and like it just took so many skills, but all the different um but it's just a stellar, you know, accomplishment really from a technical level. Are there any other things that you find folks would like to say about it, or um, like what it means to you, that sort of thing?
Mm. Well, without getting too deep into it now, I mean, the it's interesting that the short story came out in 38. This is before like the whole Cold War starts coming into the reading of the story. It's definitely there in Howard Hawks's version, and it's I think at its strongest in Carpenter's. Um, but I think the fear of it is still there in the short story. It's like out on the horizon, which is probably not like personified or anthropomorphized, but like put into some unidentifiable form of the thing. Um, and I think what Carpenter does with it so well is that he, uh, when it's been, so the Cold War lasted a very long time, like through the very end of the 80s, like right almost till 1990. So um, it's almost like an evolution of how the Cold War has affected our internal, like day-to-day readings of life and how you like build trust with people. and it's a it's a really perfectly like diabolical evolution of that, and it also shows the evolution of this creature that fosters that like that way of thinking about others,
Mhm.
because you have no idea what they're capable of, and these people have no idea what the thing is capable of. Even when they see the spaceship, like they don't understand, um, if there's writing or like recorded messages, they can't understand that. So there's no bridge to um, like deciphering any of it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, and the Cold War sort of paranoia, because it's there's a lot of really really good sci-fi and horror properties about like the whole ethos in the Cold War, and it was, you know, pumped by McCarthyism and all these things. It was like, you don't know, there was like, you know, this competing world power that had its own spy organizations and stuff, so there was always this competing fear of like, well, do you really know your neighbors? Like, who's a communist? Anyone could be a communist operative. You know, everyone in Hollywood is a communist, and that was like the whole McCarthyist
Mhm.
thing where they just, if you think like, oh, maybe workers should have rights, they're like, communist, go to jail. um and it was an incredible national fear at the top level because of this competing power. And so you have a lot of really interesting sci-fi and horror properties that kind of echo that fear. You know, like the Twilight Zone episode, The Monsters Are Doing Maple Street from the 50s. um you have so many ones, like there's a number of ones where there's like aliens taking over human form, and you know, you don't know who your neighbor is, you don't know who that person is, and all those come out of that sort of like cultural ethos. And the original novella was written, of course, before the Cold War, but that fueled adaptations from the 50s onward in a really interesting way, like you're saying.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of funny too how one thing that I really like about um, the film, and we'll, you know, when you actually like dig into the themes and do the deep dive portion, we can dig in more, is I really, really love how truly apocalyptic it is. Um, because they even have like a computer calculation of how long it would take the thing, if it escaped Antarctica, to take over the Earth. And it's not long, folks. It would take like, you know, we could set our watches to it because it absorbs victims so thoroughly, so quickly, and is so insidious. And even one particle it establishes is kind of its own thing and could do the trick, you know?
Yeah.
So you'd have to eradicate it at the atomic level in order to be safe. I just love how much that inverts our own sense of self-importance as a species in an interesting way, because like we, you know, human exemptionalism, we trash the earth and think that like we're top dog, and that's part of the reason why like creature horror lands so well with people, because it's scary to think of ourselves as being subject to nature instead of being, you know, subjecting it to our whims. And so the entire Apocalypse trilogy, but masterfully in the thing, is basically just like, yeah, you think you're special, fuck off. Like, and I just love how successfully it does that and establishes that, like, because like the entity that arrived in the past in Antarctica and that was buried in the ice and that was unearthed by the Norwegian researchers we see at the beginning, um that it was, you know, it's intelligent and arrives by spaceship. This is one thing, like, this is one singular entity that does all this damage, and if it escaped could destroy the earth. Of, we don't know how many entities, so technically speaking, as far as we know, like, the entire universe could just be all things. We have no idea. And it's a really terrifying thought.
Yeah, I think that this lands, for me, it's landed in so many different ways over the years, but it's funny, like lately, because we've been living through a pandemic. It's interesting because over the years, you know, you watch a movie a billion times and you see it a billion different ways. But since we just have been going through this pandemic, it's funny looking at it through this lens of, you know, you don't know who's got it, you don't know, like the whole virus infection lens works really well for the thing. But going back to what you were talking about with the Cold War and the you don't know who's on what side, and in my brain I always think spies. um
Yeah.
but I think like uh for me, that same principle definitely applied. I never really thought of it through that lens, though, like you said, historically, a lot of films were adapted, or stories were adapted in films through that lens. Um, I felt that way, but more on a like individual community level, um, thinking like more along the lines of betrayal within a community and not knowing. I mean, nowadays you might just call this petty drama, but not knowing who is listening to what story, who's on your side, or
Mhm.
even more like significant and nefarious, like white supremacy or homophobia. You don't know who around you espouses those beliefs. Um, and
Mhm.
that fear, like that's the fear that I feel when I watch this film.
Mhm.
But then there's monsters and things growing out of people's bodies, and so
Spider heads.
spider heads.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
But
I'm with you. Like, because it's one of the things that I think is responsible for the film still landing so well, and it's definitely better received now than it was in 1982. Because in 1982, it didn't do well at the box office. In part because, like, that was the Reagan, like the 80s were a weird time in American culture. People didn't want to be critical. They didn't want to be they didn't want their brain cells to work, so they liked happy-go-lucky stuff like ET, and ET's wonderful, absolutely, but that's more the type of alien fare that they were in the mood for that year.
Yeah.
So something as bleak and as cynical and as critical, and the gun-toting Americans lose, maybe, the ending's ambiguous, but maybe a lot of them do lose, is not the vibe that really connected with American audiences in 1982. And in terms of like gore, and in terms of uh it's sort of like cynical impact, it was so ahead of its time. Like, all those things now can make hundreds of millions of dollars easy at the box office, but at the time, critics were really down on it, and it didn't do well. But now it's undergone a lot of critical and popular reevaluation. uh Case in point, Rotten Tomatoes, the bastion of all cinematic uh objective knowledge, has like 83% critic rating and 92% audience rating, with a huge swath of reviews in both categories. So it's been heavily reevaluated, because I think those themes you're mentioning, Luna, are still, even though the Cold War has been over for, many of us don't even remember it, or weren't alive, those themes are still resonant and poignant. And like, you don't know, when you're sitting down at the Thanksgiving dinner table, what's in your uncle's head, or you maybe do, and you really don't want to confirm it. Like,
You don't want to test that. Just
exactly.
Mhm.
don't talk about it. And that's the other thing too. When this came out, like it was a lot of things. The coming out like right after ET was a big part of it, I think, but also the tendency to just prefer the spoon-fed stuff was a thing and still is a thing. As a lot of people in the horror community now are seeing some people still saying, keep your politics out of my horror. And sorry to say, but it's always been there.
And
I'm like, what have you been watching this whole time?
Yeah. Well, it just reminds me of this, like I just read this article about how not horror, but the Amazon series The Boys is out, season 3 is out. And it's a really good series. It's basically just like, what if superheroes were real? And if they were real, they'd be kind of assholes and controlled by corporations. And it would be branding. And it's a really smart show. Season 3 is really good. Check out my review, folks at home. But self promotion. But the thing is, I read this article about how like a lot of right-wing fans of the show are just realizing now that some of the heroes who are total assholes are villains.
Evil.
Like
oh
he
my
was
gosh.
exactly. He was like he was a superhero supremacist at best and a complete sociopath that murdered people casually. Did you think he was a hero? You should be arrested to save time. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
I mean, it was episode 1 with the airplane, right? Where he just like does that. Yeah. I mean, how can you read that as like, he's got his issues, but I'm sure he's gonna get better. No, like the show was trying to tell you that there's no hope for this guy.
Yeah, like
that's
was
incredible. Like that is
No.
really baffling to me to believe that people in season 3 are realizing
I know, like
that this show is about politics and American politics. Like, come on.
Especially with like the whole arc of season 2 with like what's her name? The Portland's new superhero. I'm forgetting the name. But like that whole thing, like how did you not get this into your head?
A literal Nazi.
Yeah, it's like literally like the whole arc of season 2 is Nazis are bad.
Yep.
And if you don't think they're bad, you're also bad. Like,
and then I feel like season 3 was, oh, I'm sorry, did you not get what we were saying? By Nazis, we meant MAGA.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like it puts like a Blu-ray. Season 3 puts a DVD case of season 2 in like a pillowcase and just whacks you over the head with it until you get the point.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's how I feel anyway. Like watching it, it's like the showrunners were like, did you not see the last season? Did you not hear what we were saying?
Yeah. So shout out to Eric Kripke. Come on the show. We'll talk about how superheroes are monsters. That's a really great idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Unless like some right-winger MAGA people are just like secretly have the exact same milk fetish as Homelander and that they just really identified with that,
That could be it.
Well, weirdly, there is a weird thing about like white supremacists and milk.
There is.
Yeah, there
That's
really
a whole
is.
Thing.
It's fucking weird. I'm
it's
like,
a whole thing.
You dumb assholes. Like, just because something is white, you don't gotta like stan it, okay? Like, I'll say this, folks at home, you don't necessarily know what I look like, but I'm a very white individual. I'm almost translucent. And I will say right now, white supremacists both suck and are not the best representatives of literally any category of people.
We're the most boring people. Why even fight?
Yeah, why even fight?
Yeah, exactly. Come on. It's like we need to make like a World War II style documentary because like Americans had like why we fight. We need to do like why even fight?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what are we protecting? Green bean casserole?
Like, hey, you know what? I gotta defend that mayo shelf because no, it's just fucking they're just not the best or brightest white supremacists. Case in point, they don't know how to watch The Boys, and they don't historically know how to watch things like The Thing and realize like, guys, you can think a little bit deeper, friend. Like you can use your 2 brain
It's
cells.
too hard. It's too hard. And I do want to say, like, I obviously I agree with everything that you're saying, and thank you for calling out white supremacy because it's absolute bullshit.
Fucking hate it completely.
But like, there is a big difference between people, to me, or at least I assume, this is just my personal assumption, but I think there's a big difference between people who are like, I refuse, like, I'm watching this movie, but I guess I equate these people to like the folks that give movies a bad review and the only thing they say is subtitles.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so
That's
like
garbage.
it's the people that refuse to think critically. Like they watch a film and they're like, ugh, I don't like it because it whatever. There's nothing, they just didn't think about it. But then there are the people that don't watch these films or don't think critically about them because they are battling a whole lot in their life and they're overwhelmed and they're just like, I don't watch horror because it's too much, because it's a ton of social commentary and politics, and if you're not in the mood to deal with that, then you probably shouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
I tell my friends all the time, like, yeah, if you're overwhelmed, you should not watch this film.
Yeah. If it's not already something that's therapeutic for you and already you're into it and what it entails, then yeah, it's not the time to start. Like,
right. But
give yourself the right
said,
headspace.
Yeah. But like that doesn't mean that, like, I don't like those. There are 2 very separate groups of people, but one of them are assholes and terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they often think that
aesthetic.
they're the other group. So it's like this whole thing where it's like, oh, I just, don't watch films that have politics in them, but it's because I'm so over. Like there's like this whole cyclical thing that happens. But anyway, so basically, if you don't want to watch The Thing, or you think that The Thing is a bad film because you don't understand how the guys with the boomsticks lost, then you might be in one of those groups of people.
You might have some conversations to have with yourself. Yeah. Like The Thing is one of those movies where I get, like, it is my favorite horror film. It's one of my favorite films, period. But if someone doesn't, if it's not their favorite, that's so subjective. Great. That's fine. Like, if I know people are like, oh, well, I love The Thing, but like Alien's my favorite. I'm like, it's also a masterpiece. Wonderful. Okay. No notes. But if you think The Thing is a bad film, then you're wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are incorrect.
I know. I think about that all the time because I try to listen to myself when I speak, right? And like be like, okay, am I just be imparting my view? But like The Thing as a film, as a cinematic product, is everything that cinema is supposed to be. So if you think that The Thing is bad, like a bad film, I need the notes. I need the proof. Like you have to.
Why?
You have to argue that for me. And we're going to talk about it for a long time because I need to understand exactly what you mean. Like we said earlier, every aspect of this film, the cinematography, the script, the production, the directing, everything in this film is done so thoughtfully. And even if you don't necessarily like, aliens or body horror, jump scares or whatever, it doesn't mean the film is bad. It means you just don't like it. You don't like
which
that
is different
aspect,
thing.
Which is a different thing.
Yeah.
And if your argument is that, I don't like spider heads,
yeah,
that's totally fine. But if your argument is I can't even think of one because it literally does not make sense to my brain.
They didn't
Yeah.
explain things to me.
Oh,
there's
don't
that
get
one,
me
'cause,
started
like,
on that one.
there's not like a lot of expository dialogue. Everything is really just shown like
That's
through
because you
visual.
have to think.
And then then
Yeah.
that's supported by the sound design, and like that's exactly what films should be doing, because
Right.
it's a visual language. It's not one that's like
Yes.
talks at you.
Exactly.
So you have
Like
to
one thing
learn
that
this language.
absolutely sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, that was the end of my thing.
No, it's just like but not the end of the thing. But I just wanted to echo exactly what you're saying, because like I mean Hitchcock said that like I'm paraphrasing, but basically because it's a visual medium, like pure cinema has to be visual, and you should be able to a really well-made film, you should be able to understand it almost completely without sound. Not that doesn't add even more, and it does here, but it's such a powerful visual medium, exactly like you're saying, that if you can't do that, they didn't do their job well enough. And here, aces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, that's all visual art, right? It's all
Yeah.
performance art, visual art, fine arts. It's just you have to show what you're saying. And
Yeah,
if
exactly.
your audience comes away being like, actually, honestly, I kind of hate it when I'm talked to. Like, I think we talked about this at some point, or maybe not. Yeah, I have a lot of dreams and they're not all real. So, but like, I definitely had this conversation with my partner at the end of Hereditary. I love the end of Hereditary. I hate that I was told what happened.
Sure.
It was like, I just saw it. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, like you don't need to. Your filmmaking was effective, friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I really love that film, and I love that how they end it. But yeah, I was just like, you didn't have to. Okay.
Yeah, like you didn't need the exposition.
No.
Like
Nope.
that's why, like, I don't know. I feel like part of that is them just like it's how they view like the American audience,
You're right. You're totally right. And I'm not what do you call it? Like when you're the example of the American
target
audience.
demographic.
Yeah, like that's not me. I get that. Like
yeah.
And I have a hard time understanding what that is, and especially with the last 6 years in this country, I have no idea what an American is anymore, but
Maybe
like,
longer. Yeah.
Oh.
But
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that most people do want a little bit of hand holding. I don't think the thing gives you that.
No.
But
no, I don't think so.
I don't think it really has to. So maybe if you think that films should hold your hand, the thing would be a bad film.
I feel like it gives you enough like exposition context, but like almost 100% of the exposition is like the computer,
Yeah.
like where it's like analyzing, and it's like, oh, this is the amount of time it would take for it to take over the world. That's exposition, but it's cleverly disguised as an analysis.
True.
So you can
like,
get the stakes.
You're expected to kind of fill in the blanks yourself. I mean, like, how will it do that? Like, what are the mechanics? Like, none of these things the movie is explicitly is its job to tell you or show you. Although, like, I would love to see that. I just don't think it would be very satisfying at this point.
No,
it would just be redundant. Yeah.
I don't want it shown to me, but I love that I get to imagine it.
Right. Like, and you have to be really smart in filmmaking with like how you hide your exposition, like a movie that did it unsuccessfully for me recently was I saw Eternals, and I saw some, yes, for the record, There are some people that didn't like Eternals because it had like diversity, and those people should be,
Yeah.
shoved down a stairway and into a locker.
Yep.
Because that was the high point of the film.
That was the best
what
part
was
of the
good.
film.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah,
best part of
yeah.
the film.
Like, give me more Kingo, like I love the
Absolutely.
diversity in that film. But and Gilgamesh and all these other characters. But the thing that didn't work is you could really see where it was a Chloe Zhao film, and on the other hand, where it was like a Marvel movie with an exposition dump, and they had to get their plot points in.
Mhm.
Because you'd go from like this like luxurious scene of them walking through this field, and it was beautiful and very intimate, and it was a 5-minute shot, and then you have like 2 minutes of 10 minutes worth of like exposition and terms, Marvel's getting in, that tonally does not work. Pacing doesn't work because it's just an exposition dump. That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah.
You got to do it sometimes, like hide it in a computer analysis, but it's kind of like a dumbing down of the film, that's
Yeah.
done out of a lack, either poor writing or a lack of respect for the audience, one or the other.
Yeah, that lack of respect for the audience, I think, is what I feel. I feel insulted when I encounter that, and I'm trying to examine that, and I'm examining it in real time on this podcast, because I'm just like what, like, because I know I'm not the target demographic. I know that I'm not like the average moviegoer gets the tickets for the kids. We're all going out to the movies on a Friday night. I just live at the theater, so I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
But I tend to feel insulted when filmmakers are like, well, let me just tell you everything that's happening. Because I don't, in case you just didn't have eyeballs. And maybe that's wrong of me. It's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know, but as far as my opinion goes, I hate it.
Well, I think I mean, I think one thing that's something we all have in common, and why I was so glad, initially, and I still continue to be, that both of you joined the show and that Mike joined the show, is that like we all get that horror has deeper meanings, that all film has implied meanings, but that horror also, like, they're saying things even when they're not trying to say things, and they're saying things, it has implications with how you build the characters, and with who's cast as the characters, and with what the threat is, and what the threat means in context, and what the characters are responding to it. Like, all these things have layers of like political and social and psychological meaning that you can dig into if it's a good film, and a lot of horror is good. If it's a shallow film of any genre, it's going to be like, oh, well, these guys got drunk, and then one of them lost his wedding ring, and now they're looking for it in Vegas, and that's it. That's the movie. And then they find it at the end after we've seen boobs for 50 minutes. Like, oh, that doesn't have usually much to say. But
and it can be a great, like, sit and laugh, I guess, for a couple hours.
Sure.
But the reason I enjoy horror and sci-fi and the tangential genres around horror is exactly what you said, is because there's so much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it sort of invites that invitation to revisit it, like, if not like soon after you've seen it, maybe for the first time or second time, but like at different points in your life, like, you haven't gone through this part of your life yet, you're going through this existential phase. I'm speaking kind of vaguely here, but because like everyone's life is different, so like, what do you do, like, if you become a father or a mother for the first time, that changes how you look at certain, like, properties, like, or different movies. Like, if you're a Cronenberg fan and then all of a sudden you have kids, then like that's a great way for you to re-examine those movies. Stuff like that. But but like, if you saw The Hangover when it came out, and then like you go through a life-changing experience, maybe you realize that you're not the gender you thought you were, and then you come back to it. It's like nothing really has changed. Like maybe you'll just see like, oh, this is really objectifying, like the opposite sex in terms of playing for laughs.
Yeah.
Like you'll just notice things that kind of disappoint you, and like there's not a lot of
Yeah.
things to like really give you a reason to revisit, unless you just forget the plots of movies like a week after you've seen them.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah, like I agree that there's not a lot to like come away with that would boost your spirit or give you more critical thought in a way, like, because I don't want to say boost your spirit because I don't watch horror to boost my spirit.
well, sometimes it does that.
Sometimes it does.
Hey, it always makes me like, because I've said this before on the show multiple times. Folks at home, you would know this, that this is a pro monster podcast. Always assume I'm rooting for the creature or entity in question, and I'm happy when they get a good snack.
It's true.
Like
They were
"Aw,
hungry.
They were hungry. Good.
They
for
wanted
you."
a hug.
Exactly.
Yeah, I completely like. It's just that I get like escaping life, right? Like people need an escape from things, especially when things are crazy. And I like escaping into well constructed stories and worlds on the other side of a screen that I can just, it's so encompassing that I literally can't think about my current life and situation. I have to focus on what's going on in the picture. And The Thing, that's one of the reasons why I watch The Thing all the time. I mean, several times a year. As far as like like movies like The Hangover and stuff, people say that that's what they're watching it for, right? They watch it to escape from reality. And I guess I understand that need, but I don't, that escape is not the type of, that's not where I want to be. Like, I don't want to be in a frat party for 2.5 hours. Like, but I mean, people could say that about horror, right? Like, they don't want to be lost in the woods with some entities screaming after you with too many elbows. So I guess, like we're all different. I understand. I think that there are certain films that offer so much critical, like things to think about critically and to reflect on, that don't involve, like you said, Andre, putting down or making fun of some other group of people, unless it's Nazis.
Oh yeah,
they deserve it all.
Absolutely. Like honestly, here's the thing. Like my general thing about sorry folks at home. I mean, not really sorry, because I'm still gonna do it. But we're going through a weird time in US history, as I'm sure everybody knows. And so lots of things on all of our brains. I'm sure yours as well. But it has long been my opinion that the only reason why white supremacy appeals to anyone is because they don't have anything else about themselves or in their lives to be proud of. So they have to automatically feel better than somebody else, right? Like, I don't have to feel like I'm automatically better than anybody because I'm white, because like, if I look at my life, there's things that I have accomplished that I am proud of. I am not nothing. And only nothings have to feel automatically by fight better than other people for no fucking reason at all. So yeah, fuck them. Period. And feel free to, honestly, none of those people are even listening to the show because
I hope not.
They don't do smart people things. Why would you?
Yeah, I can't imagine. Although, I mean, I'd be very interested to see someone try to write the show or tag us in some sort of like attempted takedown because we talked about how white supremacists can't think.
You know what? I mean, if they do that, bring it the fuck on. Because
I know, right?
We can
Like,
take you down. We will take you down.
Like, sorry you feel like your life was taken away from you, even though it was your own fucking doing because you voted for the people that took it away from you. So
yeah, exactly. Like you, like, oh, I'm not gonna.
Anyway, we're also salty.
We're
So I was wondering how this episode would go because
just
of
really weird time.
Yeah, that we're recording, and like I was like, I think that we're gonna be able to, like, in my head I was like, we're gonna be able to talk about the movie and but like, of course we were going to get really fucking salty at some point.
Well, that's the thing about this movie too, is that like if it gets to you as it should, then like you're also examining like your place, in
Right.
like the society around you, and like, do you trust the people around you? And like right now, I don't think we do.
No.
Yeah.
Like least now more than ever, and that especially comes from the fact that we're recording this after Roe v. Wade has been overturned, which has been in place for about 50 years.
Years, yeah. And it's sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just like a lot of people are rightly, feeling like terrible and bad about this, but there's a split of people who are feeling bad because they think that this is the worst it can get, and that is absolutely not true.
No.
No. And I'm not even gonna like entertain the people who are happy about this, because fuck them into oblivion. And like this is like the beginning of something incredibly scary, and like
but this isn't the beginning. Like, I think that's what
it's like
so mind fucky for me about this right now is that, like, when I cried on when Trump got elected, this was why. That was not even the beginning. That was just the product of a ton of effort from before. Like, it's been going on forever, and it's just it every time, every summer, it feels like every summer I'm like, man, I didn't think it could get worse, and then it just keeps happening every year.
Like,
so
no, absolutely. Like this is why the thing that's been getting me, folks at home.
Now this is a therapy session. Welcome to Humanoids from the
welcome,
Deep Dive.
welcome. Grab a chair. Grab your favorite beverage. This is I'm not paying for therapy, so this is what it is. But
I'll be talking to my therapist tomorrow, so he's gonna be like, "What the fuck did you?"
Can I Skype in? No. They're like, hey, nice beard. What the fuck? But it's just like a weird thing where because people, are liberal. I will say this, liberal, especially like politicians, people that I've known from grad school and stuff. Some of them are surprised, like, oh, well, the conservatives are so like, they're like explicitly saying white supremacist things now in public and doing all these things. Like, friend, if you look at the demographics for who voted for the GOP, it's literally like Civil War state lines. You know what I mean? Like, other than just the country's larger, so it's expanded outward, you could lay those maps over each other. If you look at like Reagan rhetoric, if you look at Nixon rhetoric about like, people of color and stuff like that, they've been white supremacists the whole time. It's just like there's a difference between what they said in meetings privately behind closed doors and what they're saying at campaign rallies now. It's the same shit. They just acted like they were better people in the past.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was the big thing about Charlottesville for me. It was like, oh, they don't wear hoods anymore.
Yeah.
We could see their faces.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they need to hide their faces anymore.
Yeah,
that was the most striking
power
thing.
now. that like
Yeah.
they can afford that.
And that was in what, 2017? Like,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
this is not new, people.
Fucking assholes. Anyway,
No, The Thing.
Speaking of
The
fire.
Thing.
No,
Like,
but
this is why this film is so good, though. Like, we keep saying it, but it makes you think critically about the world that you live in at the time of your viewing. So every time you watch this film, it changes.
it's fresh. Yeah. Because like it's so, especially like in times of political animosity and social, antagonism, I think it lands even harder because the movie's about many things. It's apocalyptic, it's cosmic horror, it's lots of stuff. But at the end of the day, its most poignant theme is about, like you've both said, so well. I'm gonna sound stupid by comparison, but it's about how, like, do you know your neighbor? Do you know yourself? Like, who can you actually trust? And right now, like in any time where like politically or socially there's a lot of antagonism, there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of threat, um it hits really hard, which is why we can't, even though we love it to death and it's exciting and it's an enjoyable experience, why we keep coming back to the moment, I would imagine for both of you as well, is because like it reminds us that right now we're at a time where we can't trust our family members. You know what I mean? Like I have family members whose Facebook threads I wanted to print out so I could just beat them with a stack of paper, because like fuck the lot of them. And it's because of the time we live in. And so like, and when you first you meet someone and you might have a mutual love of horror movies, like let's all have a hangout because we all love John Carpenter, but at the same time I don't really fucking know you, so I'm not sure I can trust you. And right now, with so much at stake, like you both said, like you were just saying, Andre, like it really, there's a lot at threat and there's a lot that needs to be done. And there's a lot of like bad people that need to be disempowered that are in an advantageous position. And a lot of the darkness in a lot of people, they don't feel they have to hide it anymore. Right. So like, who the fuck can you actually trust?
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, I have to say this, but like people, Black and brown people, people of color, BIPOC folks, trans folks, queer folks, LGBTQ folks have been feeling this way for a long fucking time. And we are watching everyone else suddenly wake up and be like, oh shit, I can't trust everyone. And we're like, we know, we know. And so it's like, when you're going through these journeys, I know Jeff and Andre, obviously everyone on this podcast, Mike is included, like, I know you all know, but to the listeners, while you're going through this journey, just remember that this is not a novel concept. This is not a novel like experience. We've been dealing with this for a very long time, and maybe like listen to us because we told you that this was going to happen like ages ago. And I'm not even going to start getting into eugenics, but it's here. So like start looking around.
Right. And here, what's interesting is like, because I'm very like straight passing, I'm in a relationship with a woman or whatever, like, and I'm again very white.
White.
But at the same time, like I'm a bisexual hydrocephalic with an autistic brother, and my partner is Native American, and like all these eugenics and shit that's starting to come out, and that's clearly the plan, is worrisome as hell. And I don't, and it it's threatening to people you wouldn't expect at face value, because like you wouldn't think that I would be one of the people that like would be the target of this type of shit, but like you really don't know.
That's
Like,
why it's terrible, is because you don't, it will impact people you don't realize. Like these white supremacist folks, like they are going against their brothers and sisters and other family members that they think that they're protecting.
yeah,
it's not sustainable and it never will be. And that's why they're a minority. It's just that we're in a minority rule country right now.
right. And like when that, they're waging a war against LGBTQ people, that's, I'm straight passing, but that's me. And frankly, that would be dangerous for them. But they would have a bad time.
Absolutely.
Sorry, folks at home, just fair warning. All of my friends here know this. I don't really get scared or sad. I just get angrier and angrier, which is why my totem is Shin Godzilla, because it's a walking pile of hatred that destroys things. And that's the only mode I got. So, fuck.
I get animated and then very sad.
Yeah.
But that's why I lean on you for all the anger. You're very good at that.
Yes. It's always at the right people, which is what I pride myself in. I don't ever misdirect it that I know of. So
if you ever did, I'd let you know. Be like,
good.
Yo, I'm checking you.
Good.
I think if we ever like were physically near each other and like this started to feed into each other, we would just simply form Voltron with our,
yes.
Our sense of justice, it has to be doled out, right?
I'll be the biceps.
I love it. Oh man, Mike will have to chime in later on what part of the Zord he's forming.
It would probably be the legs.
Yeah, that's good.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'd be the torso. You know what I mean? Like for some reason, I don't know who's the head though.
It's got to be Andre.
Yeah, that works.
Well,
yep.
Okay.
Oh, what did you want to be?
Well, I was saying the legs.
Oh, you were also going to be legs. So you and Mike were the legs.
Well, let's see. So are we going Power Rangers rules or Voltron?
Let's go Voltron.
Let's go Voltron.
Okay. Because in that case, there's, I think the legs is just piloted by one person.
Okay.
There's a central command that controls both of them, but it's like,
I think
depending on the version that you're watching,
remember. Yeah,
it's usually like mind control.
So let's regardless of whether or not this is true for Voltron, let's say that the legs are commanded by one person.
Okay, so then that would probably be me. I feel like that tiger would definitely bond with me.
Okay. I love it. Well, you heard it here first, folks. That is the authoritative analysis of minus Mike. We'll catch up with them soon. Of which one of us would be which part of the Voltron Zord that distributes justice to the baddies. It's also possible that in practice we would end up with thing-like rules where any one of us could take on the whole motherfucking thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's like if you hit our sweet spot or like most animated thing that makes us like really, really passionate and angry, then that person takes over. Yeah, that's kind of what I imagine. For the record, I kind of superhero rules, Luna. I kind of picture you kind of like Ghost Rider. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, like, I'm in. Because you do like the chain stuff, right? Yeah. And that's flaming chains is part of his shtick. Oh yeah. You know? I would 100% fuck up some white supremacists with a flaming chain. Would love that. Andre, you got to decide your weapon of choice, friend.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We can think about this.
Yeah. We'll come back to this. We're gonna slowly build our Voltron persona, and then we'll release it on Patreon.
I feel like I'm more of a bludgeoning type of person.
Ooh, okay. You know what? There's some poetry to that. You know, that's 100%. A classic. I think for
I
me,
got a
more.
lot of work with a sledgehammer when I was up at circus school. So
Ooh,
putting the stakes in the ground for the tent. So
you've been practicing. This is good.
I got
I
you.
love it. But okay, to pivot back, back and forth and back and forth. But yeah, that's why I think this lands for us so hard, and why it's all of these other contextual things come to mind, because like at times where it's like this and you don't trust your neighbor, that's literally what the movie's about. You know, you can watch it at different times. Like the last time I watched it before all this, that wasn't really on my mind. You know, at the time I watched it before that, that's something different. I was looking at different factors, you know? And right now, you know, that's the lens that becomes most prominent. And with any good multifaceted work of art, you're gonna find that.
Yeah.
At that, I feel like I didn't even expect it to go there. Folks at home, I'm literally doing this with no notes. This is all just like how it's affecting me as it's evolving. Because you know, it's a powerful film to watch at all times, and especially at times like this when you don't trust your fucking neighbor. So thank you for putting up with us. And I hope that wherever you are, that you are doing well, and that you have your people, and that you continue to do well,
Taking
and
care of yourself.
yeah, because here's the thing. I'm not looking at you, and we're yakking, and you're listening or you're watching, but all of y'all matter to me. And so I hope you're doing okay. And at that, Luna, Andre, thank you both so much for stopping by and hanging out and getting really real. And
Sure.
yeah, Andre, how can the folks at home find you?
They can find me at Twitter. My handle is Demoni Disco. Demoni in the Italian, and disco, I guess, is also Italian. So Demoni Disco. You can also find me. I write some horror reviews for Geek Vibes Nation. I also follow. Well, I also do some other film reviews at Celluloid Consomme for features that I don't get for Geek Vibes Nation. And then I'm also a semi-regular co-host of Mike Vaughn's Return of the Living Geeks. We just did a live stream not too long ago with Ace Von Johnson from LA Guns, and we just talked horror and did a fundraiser for pit bulls that are displaced because of you know, the idea that people have about them. And that's pretty much it for now. If you're in the Seattle area, I do project film over at the Grand Illusion Cinema. So if you're there and you know me, or if you don't know me, like, this is getting back to the conspiratorial angle. Just tell me if you like the thing and why, and then I'll give you a free ticket.
There we go.
I love it.
Love it.
Yes. And check that out. Thank you so much, Andre. Luna, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Luna_Minuit. That's MINUIT. And I don't really have, I mean, I have a lot coming up, but nothing I can really like market right now.
Okay.
So just stay tuned.
Hey, we'll still be promoting your stuff, and you'll still be on the show. So when you can be upfront about it, absolutely, folks at home, you'll hear about it. Thank you so much for stopping by again. And for everyone out there, you know, you can again follow me at Real Jeff Ewing. I'm always doing, you know, reviews and interviews at Forbes. I got interviews from The Boys coming out. I got interviews from different a couple of different cool things coming out. I'm always doing reviews, doing stuff at Slash Film and Looper. And in my infinite free time, I'll probably be doing like 8 more things that I probably shouldn't have tried to fit on my calendar, but I'm probably doing anyway, and then I'm publicizing it to you. So stay tuned. And now I know everyone at home's been through a lot, but when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of my Sunday tied to this fucking couch.
Yes.
Once more, I'd like to extend a special thanks to our guests this episode and to all of you out there listening. From the dawn of recorded human civilization, we've been fascinated by monsters and the monstrous. They've inhabited our dreams and nightmares, they've been our protectors and our villains, they've symbolized our fears and vices, our hopes and potential. Fears of creatures and the night that nourishes them were key inspirations and fuel for the rise of human civilization, the need to get out of the shadows, behind the walls, and into the light. In many ways, understanding our monsters is an important part of understanding our world and ourselves. So thank you for taking this journey with us, we humanoids from the Deep Dive.